In this video, I'll be going over faders. Faders can be configured to control anything about a fixture or a group of fixtures. For example, if you're using house lights, you can increase or decrease the intensity of a single house light without anything else in the console. You can also adjust the speed of an effect. In order to be able to use this feature, you must record data into a fader. You can record multiple things into different faders. For example, groups at different intensities, palettes, effects, and cue list. By default, fader 10 is configured for cue list 1, meaning this fader is where your first cue list is stored. In order to record a group to a fader, select the group, for example, group 1, enter. Now that you have the group selected, you need to add intensity to it. You want to add the max amount of intensity that you think you're going to want those fixtures to be at. I would like these to be at full, so I'm going to set them to 100, and then select record and the fader. You can press the 1 or the square or the circle of the fader, and either one will do. Now select release and move the fader bar up, and you can see that the intensity has gone up. If I wanted my max to be at 50%, I'd simply repeat the process, but instead of putting full, I put 50. For example, group 1, enter. I've selected the group at 50. And then I hit record. And this time, let's select the number 2. Then we'll release and move the fader up and down. And now the max is at 50. You can also edit these faders. In order to do that, press the display menu button and the figure configuration button. You can also select the fader button right here. You want to be able to edit so that you can use these faders more effectively. The configure button at the top allows you to edit the fader. Underneath tells you what fader you're at. The sliding bar tells you what percentage your faders are at. Once you select the configure button, a pop-up will appear. Here you can change the number of your fader, the behavior, snap attributes, and what each button of the fader does. The default behavior is intensity HTP attributes LTP. In this behavior, the intensity will always be highest takes precedent and the attributes will be last takes precedent. This is helpful because when you start moving faders, the intensity will remain constant and will not drop down to 0 before increasing intensity. For example, let's say I have a light at 50%. If I start moving this fader from 0, if it wasn't using HTP, the light would immediately jump down in intensity. This way, it will stay at 50, but the other attributes will start changing. Once the fader gets above 50, it will start changing intensity. The attributes of the fader, such as color, position, and beam, will immediately change the fixture's attribute when a fader is moved. Once you made the appropriate changes, select OK. However, you can also select Change Assignment, and then Clear Assignment if you want to revert back to default settings. Now, if a fader doesn't have anything programmed into it, you can select the configuration button and determine if you want that fader to have specific cue lists in it or if you want to control effects. If your console is running multiple effects, it might be a good idea to have the multiple cue lists in faders. This will make it easier to switch back and forth between cue lists. By selecting Display Menu, Live, you can go back into the live display. If you have any questions, please visit us at strandlighting.com.